Good day, namaskar, adab, assalamu alaikum, sat sri akal. Welcome to Honeywalia Show. I'm your host Sunil Fool. Today we have John Dykes, City Ward Councillor from Edmonton Ward 3. John holds a degree in urban planning and he has recently become father too. Congratulations, John. John is serving in city for last few years, and then I know John from our time together through the reserves too. We both served in HMC Non-Search Naval Reserve, and I'm not there, but John is still there. Thank you, John, for serving. Thanks a lot. You are serving not only in community, in the forces too, so hats off to you, sir.
Well, thank you. No, and I really enjoyed when we worked together in the Naval Reserve, Sonny, as I knew you back then. It's good to see you again. It's been a little while. And thank you for inviting me to be on this show. The Honeywalia shows is very important. I like new media. I like that there's different ways to connect with people other than just, CBC and CTV and the Edmonton Journal. This is great. This is a great show, great format. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me. And yeah, I've been on Edmonton City Council for 3 years now, and I'm going into my 4th year, and what do you know, there's an election coming up this year.
Don't worry, we are going to talk about the election coming and what your thoughts will be. But John, before now, you are a city councillor, and you're working for city. City, the whole is an organization. When we talk about the organization, it needs its finances. They have to raise money, they have to budgeted, they have to do the expenditure. So city has gone through few audits recently. What's your thoughts about it?
Yeah, so the city is a very complex organization. There's over, at its peak, 14,000 employees, and of course we've had to do some temporary layoffs and do some other adjustments, but the figure goes up and down, and it's a complex organization that has all types of management issues that I'd be happy to get into and explain. In addition to that, we serve the public, and a lot of people have high expectations from their city. It's everything from their garbage removal to their bus service, to their police force, how it's funded, and so many other decisions in between. So I'm happy to explain that as you ask, but one important part about governance within the city is having an audit, and we do employ, he's an internal auditor, but he has complete independence, and he really digs in and looks at different departments from time to time, and looks at where we're doing things wrong, looks at the best practices in other cities and how we could improve the way we deliver services. And quite frankly, in the year 2020, he came back with a few audits that were quite alarming because they revealed many things. And for example, our middle management within the city of Edmonton has been growing at a very large rate compared to our frontline workforce. For me personally, what I like to see is more workers on the front line so we can fill those potholes, so we can have better snow removal, so we can cut the grass. Do you remember the summer when the grass wasn't being cut? So
my question to you now, as we are talking, John, like audit has been there, they have recognized the corrective actions. Now it's time to implementation. So as part of city councillor, what you think city is going to do, how they are going to remove? Personally, I don't think so layoff is a solution, but how you are going to change the organizational setup.
Yeah, so we actually have a new city manager coming along, and if you use the analogy that the city is a corporation, which may or may not be completely accurate, but I think it is a corporation. But I think if you look at the city manager as sort of the CEO and the city council as the board of directors, what we've done now is we've hired a new person. His name's Andre Corbold, and he's starting next week. Actually, he was formerly a deputy minister in many different ministries with the province, and prior to that, he was a general in the Army, the Canadian Armed Forces. So he has a lot of experience, and he's coming in, and he really is the head of management, and he hopefully is going to be looking at the organization very critically. Now, as a city councillor, we provide direction, we approve funding, and we discuss issues, but I have a lot of faith in him that he'll be able to steer this ship of a large organization. I already talked about how many different lines of service that we're in. We need good management to address a post-COVID world, but more importantly, Sunny, to your questions about the audit, there's all types of information that was revealed about how we could tighten the ship and perform more efficiently as a city, as a really large organization.
Thank you, John, for your explanation. You did raise a question which I think the whole city is talking about, the issues, right? Not the issues, the plan, how the city does. And the other one in the whole, it was a hot topic, I think, or I say the bike lanes.
Oh, yes.
And recently, a few days back, the bike plan has come out. I think it's 82 pages. I have not read yet, but I have seen the glimpse of it. I have seen the headlines or what the important topics they have raised it. What's your thoughts on it? Pros and cons both.
Yeah. Well, my background is in urban planning, and I recognize that in a very large city, you need more options to get around than just cars, and I'm a big supporter of bus transit, and I think we should have adequate transit. But for those that want to take bicycles, they should be able to. But the concerns that I share, I think, with you is that this plan is quite large. There's many pages. It doesn't really get down to the core of how much this costs, and what we're talking about is dedicated bicycle lanes. So that's where they take up where before other users of the road could get to and from where they're going. Now you have these dedicated bike lanes that have a priority for snow clearing. It is quite expensive. This plan doesn't really address the cost. It's not based on solid data either, a lot of self-reported statistics. So quite frankly, in my opinion, we don't even know how many people are using bike lanes, but I can tell you in my observations and the observations of many of my constituents is that not many people are using them because we drive by these empty bike lanes in the winter. So I have concern with the plan, but I do recognize that in a large city, there should be some, there should be some bike lanes. It's just we have to do it appropriately, and we can't, go overboard with it. There seems to be a bit of an obsession with bike lanes in the city, in my opinion, and I think that attitude is probably not the best attitude. We have to recognize that there's many users of the road, including cars and buses use the road. So the bike lane thing is a bit much in my opinion.
I agree with you. Like, I have my own opinion too, but I will keep it to myself. Like when you're going specifically on the downtown where you have a bike lane and a shorter lane, and then you have no I should not be saying, but less space for the emergency vehicles. Mm-hmm. You did mention snow removal or cleaning the roads. It was hot topic or discussion in the city councilor or in the public, how they are budgeting the clearing or renting equipment for clearing the main roads, and as well as money allocated for the bike lanes. Any thoughts or more clearance on it?
Yeah, so we have our core group of snow removal folks and equipment. So we have our own plows, and we have some specialized equipment that does the bike lanes, and that equipment also does walk paths. I'm the counselor on the north side. There's Beaumaris Lake. It's a nice area. People like to walk around it. So some of the specialized equipment can get in there and do some of the paths, so people can enjoy these amenities year round. But then we also heavily rely on contractors, which is not a bad thing in itself, because we then can scale up to the need when there's a big snow event, and we can scale down with just our core crews that chip away at snow removal all year round. What I can say is I think we can always do snow removal better, and I think that snow removal will be always something that we hear complaints about, because we're never going to get it perfect just by the nature of that task. But with the bike lanes, they're identified as priority number one. So when Jasper Avenue and White Avenue and some of these other roads are getting cleared, they're identified as arterial roads, and bike lanes that receive the same priority, which means if it happens, a snow event happens in the middle of the night, people will be out there rushing, and we'll be paying them overtime, which is okay for their time, but it's interesting that it's a number one priority that we would have crews clearing all night long, just so that they're Whereas the contrast is that your residential street where your house might be located on is a priority 2 or a priority 3, and you'll be waiting, but these bike lanes that are perhaps downtown or elsewhere are being cleaned to pristine condition, and the roads outside your house aren't. So,
thanks for the clarification, John. When we talk about the bike lanes and we are talking about the roads and we are talking about the bylaws, I was reading as the speed limits are going to change all over the city. How is going to impact? And I'm not talking about the impact of the speed limits also, but the money will be put on the signs.
Yeah.
And when we are talking about the budget cuts, expenditures, is it going, what the whole purpose is?
That's a very good question. So, as you know, the roads in Edmonton are very different, and they come in different shapes and sizes. In the downtown area, in White Avenue, Old Strathcona, there's really narrow roads, and it's hard to go faster than 30 kilometers an hour on those roads. And right now, nobody is, because you just can't. There's parking on either side. But those roads are posted at 50. 50 is our default. And but no one's actually going. This whole thing about changing speed limits is trying to fix a problem that doesn't really exist, in my opinion. There's roads in Ward 3 that I represent that are quite wide, and they're designed for 50 kilometers an hour or more. If you start making those lesser, they're still dangerous places. What people have to realize is that roads are inherently dangerous. So if we lower the speed limits to make people feel that roads are safer, we might actually be inadvertently encouraging more accidents, which would be a real shame. And I brought up the thing about the narrower roads because often the argument is like, well, who would go 50 in Old Strathcona? The answer is no one, but don't have a one-size-fits-all solution for the whole city and impact all these suburban roads. So while the speed limits are changing, I was against that as a city councillor. I was one of the few that voted against that. I could have been happy with different solutions for different parts of the city. And I think you asked about the cost. That's the other thing. I think that it's going to be around $2 million from what I understand. It definitely could have waited until we're out of this pandemic or sometime in the future. It's just not a priority in my opinion.
You know, we are talking about pandemic, we are talking about COVID, and the other thing we talk about the environment, like environment, saving the environment, what we are doing for environment. So we are saving water, we are, cutting down the carbon. Now recently, city has got involved in River Valley with the solar panel, and they will be cutting lot of trees.
Right.
That was the. So are we saving environment? We are damaging environment. I'm kind of lost.
I understand what you're saying. It seems like a real contradiction. I was against that proposal as well, but there's some value in it. It's interesting. It's worthy of of peeling this back a little bit, but ultimately I think there was a sort of a counterproductive thing to be putting solar panels in the River Valley. So it was EPCOR that came forward with the idea. Now, EPCOR owns the land in question, and the City of Edmonton actually owns EPCOR, but we don't tell them what to do. They came to us in our public hearing and needed a rezoning. And really what a solar panel installation is an industrial development. And so there's be a lot of concrete poured and all that to get, and the electricity generated, and it seems good. It seems to fit the green theme of with the electricity that would be generated. But the irony that you pointed out is that trees will have to be cut down for this. And what I'm saying is all that concrete and other stuff to go into the River Valley in order to have this kind of goes against our prized possession of the River Valley. I think that we should preserve that land and limit development in the River Valley. We don't want to set precedent and have more stuff like this happening. But solar panels, where should they go? Maybe somewhere else, maybe on the roof of some of EPCOR's buildings, or maybe in industrial areas, but to do that in the River Valley. And of course, you can only imagine there's all types of environmental concerns for migration patterns and birds and all the rest. And if the water level rises, they could conflict with the solar panels if we were having a flood. So all types of reasons why this is bad, not to mention even archaeological reasons with some of the First Nations that have historically been in that area.
So John, we talk like you have just mentioned, everything has a pro and cons.
Yes.
So for me, everything has a pro and cons, and the rights have obligations too. You can't just have one thing but not have the second thing. All my honors to Sergeant Andrew Harnett. So when we talk about the police reforms, we always expect police should do this, police should do that, but how we are protecting them to what rights they have?
That's a good question. So I want to thank everyone in our Edmonton Police Service who shows up every day to do their job and expects to return home at the end of the day safely and with dignity. It's been a trying time for the police force. I'm sympathetic to them as a military man, and I know, Sunil, you are as well, as we discussed. With the police, they need to be adequately funded so they can do their job properly. Now, with all government organizations and departments, from time to time we can look at how we can do things better. I'm always for constant renewal and looking at testing new ways of doing things. So the same is true with the City of Edmonton with the audits and all that. There's new ways of doing business, but for the police, right now, they're having a really hard time, and rest in peace to the sergeant in Calgary that just lost his life in the line of duty. It's really tough. I know morale's down in the police force, and that's really unfortunate. We ask them to uphold our laws. That's the thing. We ask them to do this, and they do it, and their pay is I'll say decent, but they're working hard for a living, and they're inserting themselves into conflict and dangerous situations, and I think that they deserve our respect, and and that means that they also need to be protected. When they're going into dangerous situations, they need the right equipment and the right awareness of what dangers lay ahead.
Thanks of all the hats off all the hard work they are doing, not only the police, the fire department, medics, doctors, all the frontline people, I should be saying. Hats off, all the respect for them. You did mention the environment.
Yeah.
And downtown and River Valley. Don't laugh, but what's your thoughts on gondola?
It's okay. Good question. The gondola, for those, I don't know if your viewers know or not, but it's, when you're in Banff and you're going up a mountain on a gondola, that's good because how can you get up a mountain otherwise than hiking it? So with the River Valley here in Edmonton, it's very tricky terrain, and you have to right now take a bridge to get across it. So there's a proposed gondola that would take you across, and it would provide more access between the north side and the south side of the city. Now, it sounds silly, it sounds like an amusement park, and I'm inclined to agree with that. But what I will say, and what the saving grace is that the City of Edmonton is not proposing to do this. There's a private company that's come forward, and they said that they'll finance it, and they have this they've done their business plan. They think they can make money from it. They think that tourists will want to use it as well. So there's some appeal there that the City of Edmonton won't be on the hook. Of course, there's risk if they go bankrupt and then you have this gondola there. You got to do something with it. So there's risk. But it ties into the question about development in the River Valley, and that's just critical of the solar panel development that we talked about that EPCOR is doing, and that's further into the River Valley where there's a lot of trees and there's a wastewater plant. I don't know if I mentioned that, but that's why EPCOR has land there, because they have a wastewater treatment plant. So that's off to the side, but where the gondola is proposed, it's where the trees are mostly cleared. It's that corridor like by the high level bridge, and it's I view development in that area of the River Valley a little bit different, in that there's already precedent with it. There's baseball diamonds below and playgrounds and that kind of stuff. So I don't know. It's going to come before council, and I'll see what we should do, but that's an example of a tough question that we get faced as city councillors. So,
but you answered well. Thank you.
Yeah.
John, and as you are a city councillor, and we are already in 2021, we are next year shortly. We will be heading to the new election, and when the mayor has already declared he's not going to run with the other few councillors too. So, what your thoughts are, how the new city councillor will look, or management, the whole body will look?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I'm reserving the right to declare if I'm going to run or not at a future date. I'm still engaging with my constituents to see if I'm going to run again, but I know the question's not about me, so we'll push that to the side. What I can tell you is that there's going to be several retirements on City Council, so people choosing not to run again, and the mayor, as you indicate, is not running again, and there might be a few councillors that are already councillors that instead of running again as a councillor, but they presumably would have a better chance of being re-elected, they might run for that mayor seat, and if you lose doing that, you don't get your seat back on council. So the amount of returning councillors might be very limited, and which means there's opportunity for all types of new voices to come to City Council, and I think the public is getting they're not always impressed with the decisions coming out of City Hall. I'll say that I'm often a dissenting voice on several of the opinions. So, you know, you got to wear all the choices of City Council. We talked about a few that I was against today, from the speed limits to the even the River Valley development. So that is what it is. But in October of 2021, coming up soon, there's going to be definitely changeover of seats. There's going to be new voices, and this is all in conjunction with the new city manager that I talked about that's starting next week. But it's sort of new management and then new direction from what I would call, again, the board of directors, for lack of a better term, the city councillors.
John, thanks a lot for coming. I know it's very busy time. City councillor is busy dealing not only with the finances, layoffs, but the COVID also. I know you are a city councillor for Ward 3. In the end, what's your message is?
Yeah, well, thank you. It's been a delight being on this show, and again, engaging with a new audience is always enjoyable. Ward 3 is on the north side of Edmonton. It's mostly the Castle Downs area, but it kind of goes, you know, I take a pan north side view. I'm interested in supporting local businesses and building community and all that type of stuff. So we're entering a new year here. I'm going to continue to engage with people. I'm happy to take questions from viewers. People can connect with me through my social media. If you're on the north side, I have the Northside Hub Facebook group that's just exploding with great food recommendations from local restaurants and all types of activity going on there. So I view myself as a very approachable city councillor, and I would just encourage you to reach out to me if you have any questions for me.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John, for coming to Honey Walia show and giving us an input and insight on the city matters related to the finances, audits, what the bike plan will look like, solar plan, gondola. Once again, thanks a lot. Please keep watching Honey Walia show. We have other shows in other languages also, Hindi, Punjabi. Just not only watch, also give us your comments also. And if you have any thought or a topic or issues you would like us to discuss, please let us know. Feel free to contact us, and we will invite the expertise on that, and we will discuss that issues. Once again, welcome to Honey Walia show. Keep watching, and I take a leave from you, your host, Sunil Phul.